Lynn, this question comes from someone who serves as the economist for the National Governors Association. And he says, Mr. LaRouche, as I'm sure you know, most state constitutions require balanced budgets. So in a depression, or a recession if you prefer, when revenues fall, states are compelled to behave perversely. They cut program outlays just when public needs increase the most. They lay off workers, they defer projects, they raise taxes, and they resort to budget gimmicks that are bad policy in their own right. This has led to a situation where governors who are facing election campaigns in the next election cycle, be they Democrats or Republicans, are being faced with defeat at the polls because of policies that they are being forced to implement. What we are calling for, and I am asking you if you would support this, but what we are calling for is an emergency federal intervention in the form of aid to the states. Some would argue that the idea is radical, that it would add to the federal deficit, but my argument is that the idea is about as radical as Richard Nixon was, because he was the first person who proposed general revenue sharing back in 1970. This approach requires no advanced planning. It simply will prevent deeper cuts. Our proposal is that the federal government simply write 50 checks, one for each state. Participating states would have to commit to maintenance of effort, i.e. maintaining their taxing and spending policies as of some particular date, say January 1st, 2009, or December 2008, whatever is agreed upon. The tonic effect of this approach is almost instantaneous, since cuts and layoffs are prevented, suspended projects and programs are resumed, and laid-off workers are recalled. The fact is that if we don't do this, the current carnage that each state faces will worsen. All but 2 states face budget shortfalls for this fiscal year, and the shortfalls are enormous. The fact is that the Obama stimulus package doesn't come close to even replacing 25% of that shortfall. The fact is that if what we are proposing is in fact implemented, some can argue that the primary benefits would be macroeconomic, saving jobs, preventing program cuts, and making sure that states don't worsen consumer purchasing power by regressively raising taxes in a depression. But there's also a secondary benefit in preventing a further erosion of trust in government. When state budgets go into free fall and localities slash services that people both need and expect, the results are catastrophic. Schools and libraries close, government offices cut hours, community college budgets take hits, and the most creative and valued programs are more often than not the first to go. As public employees are laid off, government's basic capacity to do its job is wrecked. Just as an example, 21 states have cut low-income health insurance or reduced access to health care. 22 states in the District of Columbia are cutting medical, rehabilitative, and home care services for low-income people who are elderly or disabled. At least 24 states are cutting or proposing to cut funds for kindergarten to grade 12 schooling, early education, and child care, and 32 states have already cut support for public colleges and universities. Another example, in Alabama, in Birmingham, Alabama, the municipal government was forced to fire cafeteria workers at the local jails. They did it, they saved money, but they don't have any idea how they're going to feed the inmates. Secondarily, it has come to our attention that the city of Birmingham no longer has the necessary funds to bury its indigent, and therefore the bodies are piling up. The strategy of emergency revenue sharing would seem to be low-hanging fruit for the Obama administration. It's a great bipartisan remedy. Republican governors and legislators support it, as well as Democrats. I'm even willing to take the suggestion of one Washington, D.C. journalist that we name the bill for Richard Nixon. But I'm wondering if you would lend your support to such an effort.
No, I would not lend my support to it at all, and because it's a waste of time. It's actually avoiding the issue by going to an elaborate around the bend, what if. This is nonsense. We have the thing that's going to decide entirely from the top down the future of this nation is what is done about this presidency. Don't talk to me about these other things. You're wasting your time. You don't have a chance unless you do something about this presidency. That's the issue. This guy either shapes up, as I have proposed, to help the poor slob under protection, or we lose the nation. Who cares about these so-called alternatives? What if the president doesn't do something? What if the president fails? What are we going to do then? You're going to die. And therefore, you're going to do what you have to do about this presidential system now. Because if you don't do it, there's nothing else you can do. You're doomed. Therefore, you better learn. As most of the 80% of the people out there protesting against this presidency have said, and against stupid congressmen who want to go along with him, have said, you either change this or you're finished. We are not going we can't go any further. We're on the edge of doom. Don't talk about alternatives. There are no alternatives. You either change this presidency and this policy or you don't have a nation. So don't tell me and ask me what we're going to do about it if the presidency is not fixed. You're not going to do a damn thing about it because the world's going into the deepest crisis you ever saw. Every other suggestion is a damn waste of time.